But if horror didn't exist in a sense, you'd really just look at this as like, oh, this is a very art house film. But obviously there's a lot of horrific moments in this movie.
What's up, YouTube? Drive By Movies here, and you are watching
Fresh Releases.
My name is James.
My name is Blaze.
And today we'll be taking a look into the new film from A24's Saint Maud.
Never waste your pain. Never waste your pain.
Saint Maud is directed by Rose Glass, and it follows a PS nurse who becomes dangerously obsessed with saving the soul of one of her patients. So James, I absolutely knew nothing about this film going into it. I knew it was A24. You told me that it was made by that production company, and that kind of gave me vibes of The Witch. You know, we're getting this January-ish release, February release, and I thought maybe be along the lines of that because I remember that film coming at the same time. We know that A24 has a soft spot for these indie horror, like really artsy style movies like we see from Ari Aster. And now we have this film, Saint Maud, which kind of gives like the idea that it's a horror movie. But I mean, after we watch the film, we can get kind of into that. But I'd love to know kind of how you found out about this movie and what your thoughts were on it.
Yeah, I just remember spending time, like it's my thing, like every month on YouTube before the pandemic to check out to see what new horror films to look out for the rest of the year. And that's how I first found out about this movie. I remember checking out the trailer for it before the pandemic happened. It was supposed to come out, I believe, last summer around July-ish or something. And of course, you know, that didn't happen and stuff. So I saw the trailer pretty much straight up a year ago. It's been out for a while. And then when we were checking out movies for fresh releases, I saw A24, what movie is this? And then I remembered, I was like, oh, that movie, right. Yes, I wanted to see that. So I was like, let's check it out. And really glad we did. It's a really weird movie that you can't really rent right now. Like we can get into the nightmare of trying to watch this movie later on. But I really enjoyed this movie. Like definitely I can see some horror fans like kind of being annoyed with this movie because not a lot like really happens until the very end, but like I was up for the drama filled aspects of it, and it's just a very solid like tight 80 minutes that just goes by very nicely, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I have to say I absolutely enjoyed this movie. It was definitely a surprise. I thought it's unlike anything else, and that was what made me enjoy it as much as I did. I can't remember a film that's really like this as much. I wouldn't necessarily, I mean, I definitely would still classify it as horror, but at the same time, it doesn't have like as many things that are like outside sources that are horrific. It's more just like the horrors within. If you know, you get so obsessed with something and kind of are upset, like become delusional in a sense. I thought that a lot of those metaphors and aspects were absolutely awesome, really well executed and explored throughout the course of this film. And I thought this film could, you know, be metaphoric for other things because it was somewhat very broad in its idea about like the obsession about getting obsessed with something and kind of becoming delusional in a sense, to where things that might be slightly horrific you see as things that are more positive, even though they're definitely more negative from the outside. Like with the context from the outside, you realize that things are obviously more negative than they were if you're kind of caught up in the delusions of everything being so positive. I guess that's kind of how loose I can describe it without giving too many spoilers. But yeah, I absolutely love this movie. I thought if Rose Glass makes any more movies, I'm definitely, you know, gonna purchase my ticket in advance. So I would love to see more stuff that she brings to screen. It definitely gave me vibes of kind of some of A24's other successes. I know that they usually do a lot of horror films. Like, I forget, what was it? A film we watched a couple of years, was it The Hole?
Yeah, it was like The Hole or The Hole in the Ground, something like that, which was like, it wasn't the best, but like it was still a solid movie that's still better than a lot of the horror indies that I've seen more recently. I remember there was a movie called The Wretch that came out last year. It was like the #1 movie at the box office for like 6 weeks in a row, and eventually it made its way onto Hulu, and I was like, oh, this is terrible and stuff. Like, no offense to the filmmakers of that movie, but just like, that one wasn't for me, but it was like better than that style movie. But this, though, I feel like is like top tier for A24. Like, I hope it gets a lot of buzz. It seems like it is so far.
Yeah, I thought that for me, the real thing about this movie was it seemed to follow the same lines of like Ari Aster, how he approaches his films. Is like it's kind of an art house film first, but it does have a lot of really heavy, dark themes that can constitute as a horror movie. But if horror didn't exist in a sense, you'd really just look at this as like, oh, this is a very art house film. But obviously there's a lot of horrific moments in this movie that classify this film as a horror movie. But thematically, it does share a lot of like similarities to other art house movies. It just takes a lot darker of an approach.
Yeah, I see one of the biggest comparisons is to the director. I don't know the name at the top of my head, but the guy who did The Witch and The Lighthouse. And like, I understand the comparisons towards those movies. There's actually like literally some straight similarities between a talking goat and with this movie, kind of like, spoilers sort of, but like a talking cockroach also within this movie and stuff. Those are very similar aspects and stuff, and they're kind of similar in tone, but I thought this movie was like way above like those movies and stuff. Nothing against those movies. They're very well made and stuff, but they're just like a little too slow building for me, I'd say, versus this one was just like perfectly paced. And that jump scare, there's really only like 1 or 2 scary scenes in this entire movie, and like they were like dragged on for so long to where like when it finally pays off, I was just like, oh my gosh, I like literally, like if I was holding a drink, I probably would have threw it in the audience. Like the best jump scares to date I think I've ever seen were like from the movie The Gift a couple of years ago, directed by Joel Edgerton. I remember seeing that in theaters, and just like there were 3 scenes within that movie where people in front of us were throwing their popcorn or dropping their soda.
That's always
if I saw this in theaters, I probably would have jumped though during the scene. Like everyone I think who's seen this movie knows the scene essentially.
That's always my favorite thing about like the movies and horror movies and popcorn is like that epic scene that makes you throw your popcorn up to the point of like it's a shower for everyone that's around you to get unwanted popcorn on them. I don't know, there's something always so funny. You get so spooked that you throw your entire popcorn up. I remember as like a kid going to the movies and I did that once and people were pissed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this movie was perfectly paced. It's a solid 80 minutes. Some people might say that's a little too short, but I think that it was so well paced and really had a message that it was, sending home, that I thought that this was definitely enjoyable. It's a great showing for Rose Glass. I hope that A24, picks up her next project, or maybe somebody else, kind of furthers her career, because I think she's definitely an author to watch. Yeah,
for sure. Like, visually, this movie's great. The script also top notch with like the little dialogue that's kind of in this movie and stuff. It works very well with building like her character and stuff. And really loved it. Definitely recommend checking it out, because that final 15 minutes are going to stick with you.
Definitely. And guys, if you haven't checked out this movie yet, first off, if you have checked out this movie yet, go ahead down below, leave a comment. If you haven't checked out the movie, go ahead, go to Amazon or Epic. I think it's available exclusively on Epics right now. Hopefully in the future, it will be available on Amazon as well for video on demand. But go ahead, there's a link down below to watch it on Epics. You can watch it through Amazon channels there. So there's a 7-day free trial to Epics. Definitely recommend it. That's how I checked out the film. So go ahead and click that link down below in the description box to check out the movie.
Yeah, leave a comment, letting us know what you thought about the movie. Let's keep the discussion going. And if you haven't, please subscribe and hit that notification bell to get all our latest updates. And best way to help us out is by smashing that like button.
And guys, if you haven't already, we're available on all social medias. We have Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Go follow us on those socials. You can find all the links in the description box below. That's going to be it for this week, guys. For fresh releases, tune in next week for a brand new video.